My name's Catherine McCann and I coordinate the community benefit activity around the Grangegorman development, and I will be facilitating the event today with Ali, who you've already met. Our webinar has attracted a large number of participants from all over Ireland, which is fantastic, and if there is any bonus from the dreaded COVID-19, this has to be one of it, that is connecting us in different ways and providing us with virtual spaces to be able to bring people together. I mean, Ali's mentioned we regularly hold Grangegorman Business Breakfast events for people in the locality, also across Dublin increasingly, but now we've got people from all over the country, and that feels absolutely incredible. So you're all very welcome. It also shows the attendance today, I think, and the number of people. We've had about 185 people register for the event, which is extraordinary. And it shows that people recognize really that there are different ways of doing things, and that social enterprise has a very important role to play in how we move forward, not just as an economy, but also as a society and as communities. And I'd also say really today is about celebrating social enterprise, and it's also a beginning of a conversation. And we hope to be able to get lots of feedback and engagement with you today to find out where we take this, where we go next. So it is it's an exciting time. It's been very challenging, of course, but it is also very exciting and full of all kinds of incredible opportunities that even a year ago, when we hosted a social enterprise event in Grangegorman and had one of our most successful events, but this is absolutely extraordinary. So thank you very much for being here today, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you are stimulated by it and excited by it, and that you get to meet a load of people, a load of fellow travelers today. So what I now need to move on to do actually is first apology of the webinar, which is Dr. Noel O'Connor, who's chair of our Grangegorman Business and Enterprise Group, was due to address you, was scheduled to address you. He's just contacted me and he's having a sort of technological meltdown and he means he can't connect with us. So he asked me to say a few words on his behalf today to you. Just basically setting the context and also welcoming all of you who've joined us from around Ireland, and our speakers, Andrew Forde from the Department of Rural Community Development, and Maeve Monaghan, who's Chief Executive of the NOW Group of Social Enterprises. And also, we'd also like to say thank you to the Department of Justice, who've partnered with the Grangegorman Business and Enterprise Group to organise this event today to mark Social Enterprise Day, which falls on Thursday, the 19th of November. I just want to say a little bit on Noel's behalf about the Grangegorman Regeneration Project. So some of you may not be familiar with this, but it is basically an urban regeneration project in the northwest inner city of Dublin. It's 73 acres site, and it's basically creating a city campus for what was the former DIT, Dublin Institute of Technology, which is now the part of Technical University Dublin, TU Dublin, Technological University Dublin, TU Dublin, and also the Health and Safety Executive, a variety of health-related health services on the site, and also an Educate Together primary school. It's also creating lots of facilities and amenities for the local communities, and also connecting this area of Dublin back into the city through all kinds of transport, cycle links and pedestrian links. It's a very exciting development, and when things get a little healthier in the future, I do invite you to come and visit us, pop in, have a cup of tea, and we'll show you around. The Grangegorman Business and Enterprise Group, we're organising this event, basically is a subgroup of our Grangegorman Labour and Learning Forum, which is a voluntary multi-agency group set up to maximise the benefits for local communities and beyond from the Grangegorman development. And just to mention some of our members in that group who've come together to try and raise issues and create supports for businesses in the area and beyond. It includes TU Dublin, the Grangegorman Development Agency, the Dublin Chamber of Commerce, the Dublin City Council Local Enterprise Office, the Department of Justice, Inner City Enterprise, Innovate Communities, the Spade Enterprise Centre, and the Smithfield and Stoneybatter Business Association, of which I'm a proud member. And actually, many of those people are represented in the room today, so welcome to my colleagues from the Grangegorman Business and Enterprise Group. as we mentioned, in October 2019, we held one of our Grangegorman Business Breakfasts in St. Lawrence's for social enterprises, and it was one of our most popular events ever. So we can see from the attendance today how much the interest has grown even further. This has been a very challenging year for social enterprises around the country, who many have had to pivot to stay open. Some have had quite considerable struggles to meet the challenges they faced from COVID-19. But they've played a significant role in keeping the country going during the pandemic, and have stepped up to provide much needed goods and services to local communities and to marginalised groups and individuals. And we salute and celebrate that here today. So basically, from Noel, I'm wishing you an enjoyable, stimulating and useful seminar. Okay, thank you for that. So we move on to introduce our first speaker. And we know he's here because we've seen him. It's Andrew Forde. Andrew is Principal Officer at the Department for Rural and Community Development, which is the government department with responsibility for social enterprise. And he's responsible for the delivery of Ireland's National Social Enterprise Policy. He chairs the National Social Enterprise Policy Implementation Group and is Ireland's representative on the EU Expert Group on Social Economy. So over to you, Andrew.
Thanks a million, and I'm really pleased to be here, Kathleen and everybody. Thanks for inviting me all at the Grangegorman Business Enterprise Group. It's a great pleasure to speak at these events, because it's an opportunity to, I suppose, on the one hand, connect with those who are already the real experts in this field, running social enterprises despite the odds, against all the odds, and being change makers in their communities. But also, on the other hand, to potentially plant a seed in the minds of people who may be coming to social enterprise as a topic for the first time and really wondering, well, what is this all about? What's the difference between social enterprise and normal business, and why should I really be paying attention to that? So look, it's really a great pleasure. This is actually a very exciting week, a big week for social enterprise, because it's Global Entrepreneurship Week. It's also this Thursday, as Kathleen mentioned, International Social Enterprise Day. And I should take the opportunity to give the first plug to our National Social Enterprise Conference, which will happen on Thursday. And you're all very welcome to attend that as well, if we've whetted your appetite today. But let me just go back to what we're really the purpose of today. I think the purpose of today is to discuss social enterprise and to explore what it is all about and whether it's something of interest to you to develop further. The first thing I would say on that is, we have to be conscious of the context that we're in. Ireland, not just Ireland, actually, the whole world faces an unprecedented series of challenges at the moment, and I'm not talking about COVID actually alone, because COVID has somehow distorted the focus, rightly so, because it is an acute crisis. But we shouldn't forget that prior to COVID, things weren't always all rosy either. We had major issues around equality, around jobs and meaningful jobs. Our unemployment rate in this country was extremely low, 4.9% in February. You couldn't really imagine it almost much lower, but it was still 4.9%. There was still that stubborn 4.9%. And then there's the other side of that is, well, even those who are in work, are they in meaningful work? Are they making a living wage? Are they working but still in poverty? All of those kinds of issues, and beyond that, climate, biodiversity, the equality crisis that we face, all of those issues existed before COVID. So when we talk about recovery, we need to be very careful, I think, and think about what do we want to recover to? Do we want to go back to that, or do we want to use this fundamental opportunity to reshape that recovery, to reimagine what the future might be, and not to go for business back to business as usual, but go for a better form of business and a new, more inclusive, more sustainable society and economy. Now, to achieve that, though, we can't rely on any one actor, certainly not just government, no matter how much government is committed to achieving that. It requires that partnership between the public sector, the private sector, the third sector, if you want to borrow that language, but also academic institutions such as TU Dublin and many other actors. We need to all come together to try to address these problems. And this is where I think social enterprise fits in. So just for clarity's sake, when I speak about social enterprise, what we're talking about is businesses that are trading on an ongoing basis, but have an explicit social or environmental mission. And what I mean by that is the purpose of the business being set up is not just to generate a kind of a profit or a turnover, but it's to achieve the social mission. But it achieves that social mission by trading. Now that's an important point, because I think, you know, we need to be clear at the very outset. Not every organization is going to be a social enterprise. And you know, there's a distinction to be made between a private company that has an active CSR strategy, or, you know, has even an intention to be impactful in a local community and so on, but is still driven by a bottom line for the private investors or whoever it is and shareholders. There's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is they are not social enterprises. Social enterprises are specifically focused on their social mission, and they trade on a continuous basis to achieve that. There's a vast range of types of social enterprises in this country, you know, from the very localized community care, what we call deficient demand type organizations, which probably only exist because there is a dearth of public service support in that particular area, depending on what it might be. So that's one end potentially of the spectrum, and the other end is large, multinational, internationally trading social enterprises, and you do have the whole range here. The vast majority in this country, though, are in the community sector. You know, social care, community creches. Increasingly, you have now more and more activity in the circular economy. You have community cafes popping up, that type of thing. So there's a huge range. So don't, I suppose, don't think of one social enterprise as being a model for them all. You know, there's space for all, and the sky should be the limit. And actually, just on that point, in other countries we see much more ambitious, in a way, forms of social enterprise. You have hospital groups trading as social enterprises, not for private profit, insurance companies, you know, and so on. And even in this country, we've seen innovation in terms of social housing organizations trading as social enterprises, where it's about building a house for the price that it costs and selling it for the price that it costs, which I think could be transformational for this country. Huge opportunities there. That's cool on housing, just as an example, but there are many others as well. So what it's not, as I said, it's not a private company with a CSR program, nor is it a private person with a desire to change the world, but with an intention to make a profit. You know, the profits need to be reinvested. So why then would you choose a social enterprise model as opposed to a private business? Well, I think it really comes back to the core values and the core social mission. You know, and some of you in this group today, in this meeting today, may be faced with a problem in your local community, a challenge that you think needs to be addressed. It's not being addressed by the open market. It maybe isn't being addressed sufficiently well by the public sector. So, you know, you need to look at that and think about, well, what's the opportunity there? So it's first point is about the mission of the organization, the specific social need. The other thing then is around, you know, as I said, around values, but it's also about the community-based nature of social enterprises, because invariably social enterprises are deeply embedded in communities. Very often they'll have a very transparent, and they should have transparent governance structure, co-ownership of some sort. Maybe they operate as a cooperative, but transparency and trust is absolutely essential. And actually that's the strength of social enterprise. That's one of the unique selling points, that those service users, or the customers, if you want to put it like that, and by the way, we shouldn't be afraid to use that terminology, that the customers understand that this is something special. This is not about private profit. This is about community collective gain. We have a really strong ambition in this country now to develop social enterprise and to make Ireland a global leader in it. But we're very much at the infancy, I would say, because, you know, if you look at the international experience, there are more than almost 3 million social enterprises in the European Union. That means there's more than, out of those 3 million or so, there's about 14 million jobs, people working for social enterprises. So, you know, this isn't about charity, this is about real jobs for real people, you know, paying a decent wage, you know, and we need to understand that that's where we should be aiming for, that social enterprises can create jobs and they can create social change at the same time, and both of those things can be absolutely complementary. Last year we published Ireland's first ever national social enterprise policy. Very exciting moment. It was the product of, actually many of you on this call may have been involved in this process. It was a response to the loud calls from social enterprises to articulate a national policy. And that policy tries to, I think, shape an ecosystem that supports growth of social enterprises by building awareness, supporting in terms of capacities, and ensuring that policies are aligned. Because that is a challenge still, you know, to ensure a full understanding of social enterprise as being business, but somehow better business that has a social purpose. It's not always fully understood around the system. We're working on it. I think we all have a role to play to work on that and make sure that there's a full understanding. And I should take the opportunity now, I think, to just mention the Department of Justice's really innovative work in this area. Because the Department of Justice actually was the first government department to launch a policy document related to social enterprise. And very soon, actually this week, I said this is a big week, this week, Department of Justice will be launching their new social enterprise and employment strategy. And Siobhan is on the call, who has been the mastermind behind it, but it's an excellent piece of work, and it speaks perfectly well to this need to ensure coherence across the policy ecosystem in this country. So just conscious of the time, I'll move on. I mean, you know, if you're on this call and you're thinking about setting up a social enterprise, I think the first thing I would say to you, and it's not to dissuade you, is to remember a social enterprise may not be for you. You have to have a starting point of understanding that a social enterprise is a business. So with all the heart in the world, you won't make a successful social enterprise function unless you treat it like a business, and you develop your business plans, and you focus on the governance, and you focus on how you ensure that it works like clockwork and it can sustain itself. That's so important. You may have other options then, if that's not for you, you know, as an advocacy group, as a part of a community service program of some sort, or whatever. There are loads of other options, but a social enterprise is about a business. So I would say that the first step is to think about your purpose. Think about what do you want to achieve? What's the problem that you're trying to address? Do your homework on it. Think about what is there already, what needs to be done, how would this function? Determine what your market would look like. You know, who are you going to be selling to? And I use all these words deliberately because we need to dismiss that taboo of using business language, because we are talking about businesses. And if you're going to secure business supports, you need to be, I think, using those languages freely and proudly. Look for the right advice. There's loads of organizations out there. This is a perfect example today. This is about sharing knowledge, and it's a first step, as Kathleen said, but it's a really important one, and it just shows how many people are on this call. There's a real appetite there. So get the right advice. You know, you might get from the local enterprise offices. You need to go to the local enterprise office saying you have a business idea. It's a social business, but it's a business idea. Or you could go to other organizations like local development companies or some of the representative organizations, the Irish Social Enterprise Network, or whoever it may be. The next point, get your governance in order early on. As I mentioned earlier about the importance of co-governance and the community-based nature of social enterprises, it's just so important. Majority of social enterprises in this country will trade as CLGs, maybe as a charity with or without charitable status, but governance is crucial. You need to make sure it's clear and transparent from get-go. Linked to that, of course, is the issue of legal form. And actually, just on this Thursday, we will be launching a new legal form guide for any of you who are thinking about setting up, to help you to make the decisions around what the legal form might look like. Then I would map out the supports as well. Look at all the supports that are available. As I said, local enterprise offices and the local authorities, local development companies, representative organizations, the Department of Rural and Community Development, and so on and so forth, Department of Justice. Map them out and see how you can engage with them strategically. And then I think the key point is when you start trading, communicate your message consistently and monitor your impact and measure it from day one. It's so important to keep on how would you say, emphasizing the message that you are business but better, because you're social enterprises. So look, I think I might just stop there because I've probably gone almost over time, but I just want to use the last word to say that there's a lot happening. It's an exciting time in social enterprise. This is not just a national but an international movement. We're going to see next year a new action plan at the European level on social enterprise. The OECD have just released a report emphasizing the important role of social enterprise in terms of the national economic and social recoveries. This is critical. The UN is going to be passing a resolution, hopefully at the General Assembly next year, linking social enterprise to the SDGs, because naturally social enterprises are working on many of the sustainable development goals. There is so much happening. So my strong advice to you is be brave, be bold, give it a try. Reach out for help and learn from others. I think this is a really exciting area, and I would strongly encourage you to consider social enterprise. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And there was an awful lot to do on in there. I mean, I love the idea of social enterprises, change makers, not just in their own work, but as signposters for others. The idea of equality and meaningful jobs with a living wage, real jobs. And you know, that, and 14 million across the EU. I mean, that's extraordinary amounts of employment. And also the you know, trying to change society, but at the same time, exactly what social enterprise should be working for, jobs and improving our society. Also, I think that the whole point around reshaping the future, let's not go back to the way it was. It wasn't that great. We're hankering for the old times, but it wasn't that great. And the idea that the sky's the limit, and the transformational power also that social enterprises have. I definitely think on the what somebody I know called the dark matter side of all of this is the legal and the governance issues, but they're really important. And I think the idea of a new legal form guide is long overdue and very welcome. And I think it'll be very practical and much needed resource. And then finally, I think as you see in the chat, I think you've coined a slogan for us there: real business but better business. And you know, all part of the mission to understand a better and fuller understanding of social enterprise. So thank you very much for that, Andrew. We're delighted now to welcome our next speaker, Maeve Monaghan. And Maeve has been working with the Now Group, which is an award-winning social enterprise that supports people with barriers to employment and learning to access the labour market. And Maeve's been working with the Now Group for nearly 20 years and has been chief executive for the past 12 years. And the Now Group operates 3 social enterprise businesses: Love Catering, Gauge Impact, and the Jam Card, which earlier this year was getting a huge amount of publicity as it was launched in various places around Ireland, including in transport. And the profits from those businesses support go to fund the group's work. So we'd like to welcome Maeve, and we look forward to hearing you, Maeve.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today, and welcome from Belfast. It's just wonderful. If there's one thing, as Kathleen said, that's come out of COVID, that feeling of being in touch with people more readily, and as somebody who's really, really keen on making connections in the south of Ireland and you know, telling them the message of Now Group, this really is an opportunity for us to do this. And this is my 2 favorite things to do, to talk about social enterprise and to talk about Now Group. So, you know, a perfect gig for me. And I wanted to thank Kathleen, first of all, for hosting, but a special thanks as well to Siobhan for asking me to come along today. I think we've been on a journey around sharing knowledge, and I'm just so excited about the work that's going on in the south of Ireland around social enterprise. I would note that sometimes when you're in your area, you can be very critical about the progress and how it's going, but I think looking at it from a different jurisdiction, same island, different jurisdiction, it looks really good. You have a really good strategy. You've got a really cool buzz about it. And we're just really keen to be involved. So well done to everybody who's been leading the way on that. And it is an amazing sector, and it's something I'm so proud to be involved in. And I'm going to just share a little bit about our journey, because I think it can be very easy to talk about social enterprise, and I get asked a whole range of different questions, but I'll tell you a little bit about myself personally, about Now Group and our model, and then I'm more than happy to answer questions offline. It is a whistle-stop tour. There's a lot in our organisation. I won't get through it all today, but please do link in with me through LinkedIn or social media, or even on the questions, and I'll see if I can answer the questions. And that is my biggest task today, is to get this screen shared. I'll go through a few of my slides. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, there you go. That's my job done. I'll just get it into the full screen mode. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about Now Group. So, you know, Andrew talked a little bit about different models. Now, from a governance point of view, Now is a company, it's a registered charity, and it's a company limited by guarantee. And we have a range of social enterprises under the group that operate, and I'll talk about a few of those in a minute. And I should mention, you know, the charity was set up in Northern Ireland, Belfast first, North and West Belfast, expanded across Northern Ireland, and we now have charitable status and company status in the south of Ireland, which we're particularly proud of. So quite a big area of development for us. So we're hoping that this could be the start of a conversation about future collaborations and opportunities for partnership.
And just to say, Maeve, I'm not seeing the front slide show up. I don't know if you want to just click on it, or otherwise I can help.
Are you seeing it now?
Not yet.
No, I'll stop sharing and go back and see if I can get that. Sorry, I knew it was too good to be true. Just bear with me, because I'll have to. We had this all set up beforehand, didn't we? And
no, it was fine. It's just, I think you just need to click on it one more time to get it out of the black screen. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. You seeing it now?
No. Do you want me to share it and I'll follow you?
Yeah, or? Yeah. Could you do that?
Yeah.
Then?
Okay.
Just not. I'm sorry. Apologies.
No, I think the situation is taking us into the right direction. Let's work together. So hopefully I can do it. I'll have the responsibility now. So I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, and then that means I can be hands-free. So there's more time for talking and looking at everybody's lovely faces. So yeah, if you just slide on that idea of the Now Group as a group, an overall umbrella organisation that supports a lot of business. This is the slide that I show to everybody when I talk about Now Group, and I think we're particularly proud of this, because I think that this is our strategy map, and this is the everything we do and everything we're about is on this one slide, and it helps us. When Andrew was mentioned earlier about being able to tell your story and communicate it well, we use this format as a way of doing it. So the mission is everything we focus on. Anybody comes to me, talks about a new collaboration, a new idea, they've got a plan, they want to do X. The first question will be, well, show me where it fits in our mission. How is that going to help us support people with learning difficulties and autism into jobs for the future? Because if it doesn't, then what would be the point? And they have a very, very big argument coming back from that if it doesn't link it in there some way. And I suppose we have key strategic priorities, and you'll see them there, but the idea, for me, it is so important about how you make people feel. And we translate that right across the organisation. So if you think of that idea of an outstanding participant experience, so anybody that comes to engage with Now Group that has any form of learning difficulty, right from reading and writing issues right through to very complex disabilities, the fact that every point of contact with our organisation should be excellent is an absolute focus for us. And I think that that's one of the questions, one of the tests I'll say to people is, if you come in for an interview in Now Group, how does it feel? You know, what way did it feel when you went to a cafe? Anywhere that's part of our organisation, you should know it when you see it. And I think that translates, or that also moves over to the idea of outstanding employer and customer and employee experience. We use the Net Promoter Score right across the organisation to check in on people and see how we're doing around that. But that idea of excellence is a real focus. And I think for us, and I'll talk a little bit, as I go down through this, I'll talk about the individual types of social enterprise. But it's one of those areas we're focused on quite a lot at the minute as we start to scale. How do we make sure we keep that customer excellence, whether it's a customer who has a learning difficulty, somebody who's in one of our cafes, a large corporate who's using our consultancy business, it doesn't matter. What is it, how are they feeling and how good an organisation are we? And then I suppose a big strategic priority that fits very much into the social enterprise discussion today is around growth and sustainability. And for us, it's growth geographically and also in relation to impact. So one of the things I say when I'm introducing myself to people is I'm a social entrepreneur. I love making money and I don't make any excuses for that. I love it. It's just what we do with it that's different. So, that idea of not being a bit ashamed to talk about profit and commerciality and scalability and growth, no issue with that at all. I'm becoming more comfortable with it as the years go on, to be honest. But the more money we make, the bigger our organisation it is, as long as we balance the quality bit, the more jobs it creates for people that we support and it drives their mission. It's a balance around that. And I think that's the piece, that's the area that we're in at the minute, looking at commerciality and profit so that we can do more of that. And I suppose one of the really great opportunities here today is to talk about growth, because we're, as I say, quite a big fish in a small pond in the north. We're really, really keen on being a big fish in a bigger pond and across the island of Ireland. We're really keen on that collaborative partnership on that. But that focus is important, particularly if there are people at this event today thinking about moving from a charitable model or a community model towards a social enterprise model, because you will get a bit of a pushback in your organisation, and we certainly did. We looked at it in the beginning. Now, I would have some debates at times. People would say, well, sure, you're only in it for the money, or you're not thinking about the participants, or we're a charity, we shouldn't have to worry about money. And my argument around that is we can't afford not to. If we are going to drive our mission, our model is around sustainability, financial sustainability and growth. And I think particularly culturally, as you start to, change, particularly if you're changing the culture of your organisation from one to the other, that's one of the things that you have to be very confident about and secure in, that there is no, that it is a good thing to make money as long as you're very, very clear about how any of the profits drives the mission. And we have a very keen eye on sustainability as well, the environmental sustainability, and how as we grow as an organisation, we flex our supply chain and make ethical decisions around the environment, so that we're not creating a positive impact in one place and a negative impact somewhere else. So, Loaf, that we'll speak about in a minute, as our social enterprise business, is a plastic-free business, not the easiest thing to implement in a business of that size, but they're the braver decisions you make when you're a social enterprise and you're driven by a mission and a social focus rather than just around profit. And then when you look at the brands, and this is why I kind of always launch into this first, this is like the Now Group family. And I say that because I used to do this conversation about Now Group, and I'd say, people say, well, what do you do? And I said, well, we support people with learning difficulties, and we've got a catering business, and we've got this, and we've got that, oh, and we've got a consultancy business, and oh, did you know that we sold pottery? And people got, you could see that look of absolute shock on their face. They're like, oh my God, how much stuff, what is this? How do I work my way through it? So we tell it like a family now. Now Group is the home place, the registered charity, the area that delivers all of the services right across the organisation for our participants. And you'll see the numbers in the minute. We've over 1,000 participants we support a year. And Loaf Catering is, we would describe them as the family member who has lived with us, gone to university, got a job, she's living independently now, got her own house, doing really well, still comes back at the weekend. We do a bit of laundry for her every now and again, but really she's quite independent, quite commercial. That area, that social enterprise has 6 cafes now. Pre-COVID would have been turning over nearly £1 million with a plan to expand that to £2 million. A profitable business as well, generating profit back into the organization. Not that easy to make profit in a social enterprise catering business. I would stress it's definitely not the solution for everybody, but that business is doing well, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that in a minute. Then Loaf Pottery was our toddler, probably in second class now, doing okay. Still not completely sustainable on its own. We have a cafe there, but we also have a range of beautiful handmade pottery. The amazing girls in We Make Good in Dublin stock that for us. We've just done a great order. We sell that online, and it's a new area of development for us around that craft. And then Jam Card I would call the blue-eyed boy. That's the person in your family that everybody says, oh, are you related to Jam Card? It has actually, with the growth of Jam Card, stretched way out past Now Group. And it's an example of something that if you invest in it right and you support a really good initiative, it has the potential to take your organization in directions that you never would have thought of before. So it is, you see the logo there, just a card, Jam, just a minute. Please be patient. That idea when people have a communication difficulty, they need people just to stop a minute and give them a minute to pay at a shop, to access a bus, to put your pin in a bank. That idea of that customer service transaction designed by our participants. The logo is theirs, the name is theirs. We've put a technology platform behind it. We now have 50,000 Jam Card users across the UK and Ireland and wider afield than that, with about 1,700 businesses. The model being that the businesses paid become Jam Card friendly, and then the people who need the card get it free. And the more businesses that are trained up to become Jam Card friendly, the more Jam Card users use their business. And that model is just at the stage of significant growth. So right across the transport network in Ireland, right across the island of Ireland, AIB, First Trust, Bank of Ireland, Ulster Bank, all of the 98% of pharmacies in Ireland are Jam Card friendly. I'm trying to think, there's so many now. Virgin Trains in England, in Scotland and England as well are Jam Card friendly, so that potential for scale of that is significant. And opening up new markets for Now Group as well. It was in the south of Ireland before we were, so we're kind of running behind that very popular family member and trying to make sure we bring everything that's important in our mission with that as well. And then Gauge Impact, I describe that as a family member who doesn't look like any of us. You wouldn't even know we were related, really. They don't live in the house, so kind of like a cousin. But it's a consultancy company, a CIC, a community interest company. We measure social impact and help people communicate it. And that we do that for Now Group, using independent consultants, but we do that for businesses and other organizations as well. And the profits from that business help feed the mission of the organization. And you'll see at the bottom, everything is underpinned by that idea of operational excellence. I like what Andrew said before, and Kathleen as well. I don't want to be running a social enterprise. It's like, they do good things. I want us to be the best possible business, and we do so good things too. That idea of brand and quality and product that's just exceptional is really, really important for us, and it's important that we're delivering that for our participants as well. Just next slide, Ollie, please. So yeah, there are some of our participants there. This was, as you can imagine, before COVID, when they all could be in our offices and enjoy themselves. But that idea of it all being about people of different ages with different personalities, but we're all working towards the idea of all of these businesses supporting people to get into paid job. And I look across those individuals, I know them all quite well. 4 of those individuals are in work now, and if you had asked them 3 years ago could they have done that, they would have said they weren't interested in work or it wasn't for them. But that focus about encouraging people to progress and look at paid work is a main driver for us. Next slide, Ollie, please. So yeah, here's some of our numbers. As I said, over 1,000 participants last year, 100 people into paid jobs. Over nearly 650 people gaining accredited qualifications, and an important thing for us around retention, because in a time when you're trying, particularly pre-COVID, when jobs were about and it was easier to support our participants into jobs, it's not about any old job. It's about the right job, and retention is so important. And I think it's the difference between using an organisation like ours and using a big multinational private sector placement organisation. You know, the level of retention drives through. So, you know, that investment in an organisation like ours, where 93% of people are still in jobs 6 months down the line, makes good financial sense to anybody who's invested in us. And I think it also talks to our piece around quality. Next one, Ali, please. So social impact, one of my favorite topics. You'll see our journey. This is all our social impact cards. Well, not all of them, but from 2014 on, we are really keen on measuring everything we do and being honest about what works well and what doesn't work well, and then singing about it, telling people. So even in COVID, even in the middle of this, people, you know, our marketing person said to me, well, maybe we won't print our impact card this year. I said, what do you mean? That is so important to check in, look at the story about the difference it's made. That's for every £1 invested in Now Group from 2014, we were returning £7 in social value. It's now up at £20 in social value, and we use it as a business improvement tool to be making sure that it's not just we do good, but that we're actually checking to make sure we're making a difference. So I would be encouraging people as you're going along to always ask that question, so what? In our sector, sometimes we can say that charitable piece about how great, you know, we're doing this, and, you know, here's all the problems and this is what we're doing about it. And that is really, really important that we do that. But I always say, well, so what? We're all doing good things. What's changed? What is the point in me having an working in an organisation that supports a person who's in the same position now as they were 5 years ago? What is our mission? To move people on. If they aren't moving on and they aren't happy in their roles, what are we doing wrong? So I think that check in every year to make sure that we're looking at social value is important. Plus, I love the look of them. I just think they're so gorgeous. And there's just a little journey around that as well. That's important. So, you know, as you're starting to look at this, or you might be much further along the line than I am, that idea around social impact and so what, I think is so important. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I thought when I was speaking to Siobhan, one of the things we'll talk about is the Love Catering Academy, because we run businesses and they're significant contracts. We have a number of contracts with Northern Ireland museums. We have it for Belfast City Hall. You'll see some of the cafes in a minute. But all of that is about running those businesses so our participants can be involved. So we'll have 100 training places a year in those cafes. It'll be accredited training places. People will be encouraged to progress, and we want to see them in paid jobs, either with us, or I would much prefer actually out in the open employment market. And we are really keen, you know, that anybody who moves on from us, certainly anybody we employ, has a living wage, and we're really progressing. And I'm just looking at this photograph here. I met this guy, Patrick, about when my husband broke his leg during lockdown, and I went into the Royal Hospital with him for his appointment. He was coming walking up the corridor with that smile on his face. And I said, well, how are you doing? How are you settling in here? He said, this has been my dream from I was a child to work in this hospital, and they wouldn't give me an interview because I didn't have, I think it was GCSE English or maths, something he didn't need to do a catering job really. And they just agreed to have an interview, and they loved me so much. I've been here ever since. And I thought that that was just wonderful. Part of our work is just that matching up as well, and just making sure that you listen to what people's actual ambitions are and match it up. And I came away from that with a husband with 2 crutches, which was a bit of a pain, but he had made my day. and the fact that he was so happy, and that's the piece about impact that's so important. Next slide. So yeah, the Catering Academy model, you'll see it works. We take in about 10 people, sometimes 15, but usually 10 at one time. They'll work on one of our sites. They'll get 6 weeks training. Then they'll be out with work placement. They'll gain the qualification, and we're looking at a paid job at the end of it. Of the last round, we did 60 people through the academy last year. 80% of them were offered a paid job before they'd finished the academy. Now, obviously, the market has changed slightly in relation to catering, but we're also able to flip that academy into retail, warehousing. We're looking at it in relation to care and cleaning at the minute. We as a sector need to look at where the opportunities are and shape our offer to align with that. So we will continue on with the catering one, and we do a hospitality one, but we'll also look at the sectors where there's jobs coming up. And one of the things I'm particularly proud of is that we've supported 29 people into paid jobs during this lockdown period since COVID as well. So that shows that that's still working really well, that we're matching people with jobs even at a time like this, which is great. And we'll hope to keep that retention rate up, although issues to do with redundancy is a new challenge. So we have to support those individuals coming through. Next slide. So yeah, I love showing these pictures. These are my babies. These are the different sites we have. And I note Andrew and Siobhan, and I see Richard on the call today as well. And they have been to the Loaf Cafe Bakery and the yellow one, which is our absolute baby where we do most of the production. The top left-hand corner is the Bobbin Cafe in Belfast City Hall. The bottom left is our little toddler, the Pottery in Crawfordsburn. And the bottom right is one of the museums. It seats 120 people. We've got outdoor seating as well. So really, really commercial contract. And we're particularly interested in that area of scale. So that piece around bravery and scale and looking at, I'm here, but where do I want to, at one stage we only had that yellow cafe, and thinking big about where you want to go and being, what we didn't want to just be in any old site. We want our participants in the most gorgeous sites with the most customers and the most commercial areas. And I think that's a piece that's a challenge when you're in catering. People want to offer you all the places that private sector businesses don't want or can't make work. And we say thanks, but no thanks. We want the ones that are commercial in the nicest venues because our participants deserve it, and so does the organisation. So yeah, just next slide then, please. So our key focus, and then I'll move on to some maybe suggestions I would have when you're starting to look at social enterprise. We're really keen to be leading the way in securing jobs with the future. That idea of employment and progress, we're looking at a number. We're working with Deloitte at the moment on a data academy for some of our participants who maybe academically are very, very capable but are struggling with the interview and just can't really get a job. So we're looking at a whole lot of different vocational areas, but looking at partnering with the employers and the individual to make that work. And we'd really like to be moving to 200 jobs a year, up to 500 jobs a year. That progression is important for us. Focusing on the delivery of the academy models, I think I'd mentioned that, you need to go where the jobs are and you need to work with the businesses. And it's a really, really good conversation when you're speaking to employer or businesses about where they're finding a problem, filling roles and how we can match to that, rather than having one individual that you're trying to look at all the jobs. That idea of matching it up, and we can normally do it in groups of 5 or 10 jobs at a time. which is really, really good. Not everybody wants to work in the same area, and I completely agree and understand that, but scale is important. Securing new sources of funding and investment will be a big priority for all of us on this call, but it's certainly something we're looking at. And as I mentioned, growth of Now Group across the island of Ireland is definitely our next step. It is my focus over the next 12 to 18 months, and certainly a strategic focus of the organisation. And I note I have two of our ROI board directors on the call, with Kiwi Ryan and Marion. So to say hi to them, and they're helping us look at scaling into the south as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you for that. Ali, just the last one then, please. So yeah, second last one. I don't like my double chin in this, but this is a photograph of Jamcard as we launched it pre-lockdown with Bank of Ireland on Grafton Street. So I thought that would be nice for anybody from Dublin, that they could see that. Andrew's on the right. He is one of our ambassadors who tells a story about his experiences and how we work. There's a really good development opportunity for him and paid roles as an ambassador as we scale that up. But that's a very, very set up photograph, but I kind of think there's a little bit of joy in it that shows some of the Jamcard spreading. So finally then, because I'm conscious of time, I think if I had 4 points, if I was talking to myself a number of years ago, or when people ask me, I'd say the big thing is to think about scale and be brave. And I have not always been good at this myself, but I am getting better at it. And it's that strategic planning piece. Instead of going up in increments of, well, we got 10 jobs this year, we'll get 20. The next is to say, well, we'll have a 3 or 5 year plan. We're in 10 now, but we're going to do 100. And I remember those conversations with our team where they were saying, we'll never do 100 jobs. Well, there isn't, I was told there wasn't 100 jobs out there for our participants, which wasn't obviously true. But I think that scale and up thinking about being brave is important. You know, to balance your risk, and your governance is important, but being brave. And for me, it is fundamental about how you make people feel. Every point of it, you know, it sounds slightly blasé and a little bit basic, but it doesn't matter who's interacting with this organisation, how they feel is important to us. Focus on jobs for the future. I think there's just something there, but sometimes us do it. Well, I can say it for a second from my own personal opinion. You know, I was thinking, well, we're good at this, so we'll just do more of this. But actually, you need to look at where the opportunities are, and you focus on the jobs that are coming with future, and you're supporting people to access those. And I must say, I find businesses really, really keen to work with us, and with the right model, support more vulnerable people into jobs, and you can see the retention rate, so it works. And nobody can come to me and tell me with the right model and the right support that anybody couldn't get a job and keep it. I just don't buy into that thing that it's not possible, or that there aren't the jobs out there. I just think it's matching the right match is important there. And you know, I'd finish on that idea of building strategic social partnerships. One of my biggest frustrations, there's 2 frustrations I have, and they're kind of linked. One is because we've done quite well and we've become quite successful, people want to do the same thing as us. So we start something and then it's like, oh, there's another one and there's another one. I'm saying, oh, for goodness sake, we don't all have to do the same thing. We can actually collaborate together. There is much more business in doing business with me than setting up a business that competes against us. I just think our sector hasn't got that right yet. Like there's an example here of my water bottle. It's a loaf water bottle. We sell these in our cafe, but they're made by a social enterprise in Bristol. So they're an environmental business called Raw Bottles. We collaborate with them. They do the bottles for us and we sell them. There's no point in me trying to make bottles. It's not our area. So that idea of flexing your supply chain and doing business differently is important. If I had £1 or €1 for every time people wanted to speak to me about setting up a cafe, you know, I would say so community cafes are not the way to be sustainable. You know, it's worked for us and it might work for others, but it's not the easy way to make money, certainly. And there is much better opportunity to look at what we're buying and sell to me and let me sell it on. Or let us get into your business and do something for you. That collaborative piece, that works really well in the private sector. They get it. I'll say, when I'm in my meeting with the private sector, I'll say, tell me about your supply chain. How can we help? And they'll have a whole lot of things that we could work with. Our sector aren't as good at thinking that way. So we need to think about ways where we could scale up quicker and braver by working together. And that's one of the things I'm really keen on continuing conversations after today about. But I would also say, don't be too hard on yourself. It can seem quite overwhelming when you go to start something. But if you've got a product that you would open your purse and pay for yourself, and you actually have a heart and you see that there's an interest in it, you could be on something. You would focus on that first and think of scaling that before you start doing 100 different things would be my final point. And that's really me finishing off on my presentation, but more than happy to take questions later. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Maeve. There's so much in there, and I think so much is resonating with our own work and some of the social enterprises we know. I'm delighted to hear about your new group model, which is going to see more of you in the south of the island, and I think there'll be a lot of people waiting to collaborate with you eagerly. I think the focus, your emphasis on the focus on operational excellence and quality, like that, this isn't just something worthy, it's something excellent and really good that people seek out, whether it's an experience or a product. The idea of the social entrepreneur as well, this is a cultural barrier we find as well, that, you know, because we're very, very, very hot on the social and sometimes not so good on the enterprise piece. And that somehow it's not something we're used to, or it's not part of our organizational culture. And I think the idea of it's fine to make profit, but it's what you do with it that really transforms that and makes it part of your mission. So I think the balance around commerciality and your social mission, but also the emphasis on financial sustainability and growth. And your numbers are very impressive, like over 1,000 participants, over 100 people into jobs. And I think the sustainability thing is really, really important, not just about a business, but that we're actually looking at retention when we're creating employment. We're not bringing people to the promised land and a week later they're back where they started. That's really, really important. And I think you quite rightly put a lot of emphasis on that. It's brilliant as well that the job card has been such a success in such a short time. And again, the whole point around the so what question as well, that we have to keep asking ourselves how we're doing and is it good enough and how can we do it differently, and not just sit back and do the comfortable stuff or rest on our laurels. I love the idea of thinking big about where you want to go and, you know, wanting the best for your participants and the people who use your services. And also I think it's a really important point as well about collaboration. And one of the things, often even just within social enterprise, one of the things that we started doing, networking events, because one of the things that struck us was that social enterprises didn't know each other. And part of today maybe is kind of trying to make a few more links. But absolutely, and I mean, I was just thinking when you were talking there about that, about people who are on the call here, I think, well, certainly Maggie Clune from Pace, and they have the Mug Shots coffee carts, and they have one down in the forecourts, which isn't very far from Grangegorman. And they buy their coffee from Moy Coffee, which is another Grangegorman business in Pascal, who's on the call, his Spade Enterprise Centre. And that's a fair chain social enterprise. So this is about social enterprises supporting each other as well. And I think that's something in competition, but also in collaboration.